So hello everyone, and it's wonderful to see all the on jobbers, and it's so wonderful to have with us Ashwini Sarvate. I hope that's the way it's spelled, and
Yeah, it's a long.
yeah, great, great. So basically, just a brief about what On the Job does. I'm Nisha Vora. I come with a 15 years of experience into recruitments. I've been working with some of the top blue chip companies, Deloitte, Kotak, VFS, and a lot of mostly it's been into IT in the financial services. And using this experience in the last 3 years, we've created this platform which is called On the Job. So here we try and in my journey as a recruiter and in my journey with students, and in campus to corporate programs, I came to understand there is a big there's a big haze about what is happening in the corporate world. There's a big divide between what you learn in your college academics and what the corporate world actually needs. And in the journey of also help of having two teenage kids and helping them in their journey to find out the right careers, I thought there's a real need in this particular space to give students some clarity on what the real job actually looks like. You might be liking certain subjects, but and you might be liking certain things, but is there some demand in the market for that thing, and particularly, and how do you go about careers, and how do you go, and plus now there are so many options, India, international, and the job profiles are changing. The typically art streams, commerce streams are merging, and lots of wonderful things are happening in the world. And that is why we created this platform, so that we try and connect you with real professionals in the real world, and take you to, and they take us through their job profiles, and how this what the journey actually looks like. And today I must really say I have something like a jewel in the crown, because I'm really fascinated by the role which Ashwini is handling. She comes from Hindustan Unilever. So Hindustan, that is one of the, like you can say, the dream companies for a lot of people, anybody wanting to get into the FMCG industry, even from the IIMs or other colleges. I know like HUL is the dream company to be working with. And imagine having a job profile where you're creating wonderful products, like you name it. I mean, if you look at her biodata, has been Dove, Vaseline, Fair and Glow, which was called Fair and Lovely earlier, and uh, kind of uh, uh, creating these products, understanding what the customers wants, going back to the drawing board, and creating such wonderful products. Wow, wouldn't that be a job which all of us would love to have? And this is wonderful because so many students come to me as to, I don't want to do engineering and medicine. What else can I do? I love biology. I love what else can I do with these fields. And so it's really wonderful that to have Ashwini. So I think I've taken up enough of your time. Ashwini, a very, very warm welcome from all the on the jobbers. And can you tell us something about yourself, and something about the kind of profile that you handle with HUL?
Yeah. So thank you so much, Nisha. That I mean, it feels very good to connect back to those roots. And what you were saying is absolutely right. And I completely connect that. Yes, HUL is a dream company, and that was a dream company for me as well. That was first thing. Second thing, when I was in my beginning of my career, uh, even I had the same kind of opportunities. Either you give a medical entrance exam or engineer entrance exam or architecture entrance exam, which is what I did. And but then I wanted to do something different. I didn't want to become a doctor or an engineer and just do the routine monotonous jobs. And I really wanted to do something different. So that's where I started with bachelor's in cosmetic technology, followed by I did my master's in the same field, which is all about formulation, development of new cosmetic products, be it skincare, hair care, oral care, so all those exciting. And I really found it very exciting, which was much beyond than the traditional doctors and engineers kind of education that I was going through. And post my education, the first opportunity that I got was HUL, and it indeed was a dream come true. I did crack it. And ever since then, I am with Unilever for last 11 years now. And it has been an amazing journey.
Wow, this sounds great. So you like you're a lifer. You started with HUL and you're still with HUL, which is
Yes,
which is yeah. I don't
yes.
think why would you want to move anywhere else when you're at the top, right? So that's great.
No, there is a very valid reason why. So when I joined HUL, I started with a technical management or technology associate sort of position, which was a very interim position and an interesting role per se. And my journey so far has been that every 3 years I have changed my roles.
Oh wow.
So that's where every 3 years I have moved from one role to other role, and that's where I have been keeping on learning something new and different every 3 years, and that's what keeps me connected here.
Oh, that's great. So everybody wants something which is changing. In sense, every 2 3 years when you get to learn something new and move. So that is the kind of position that people would be looking for, and that's so wonderful. So Ashwini, I just wanted to ask you. So what does this role entail? Like a product, like you've done, it's written cosmetic research, and you've written some CT uh, scans.
Yes. So
So what
what I'll
exactly does it mean? Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. So what my current role? So if I'm to talk to you about my current role in Unilever, I handle Glow and Lovely product development, and I am the CTI lead for the brand globally. And the brand is present all over, I mean, in more than 30 plus countries right now. So I'll just talk through you about what is product development when I talk about, and what is the CTI thing, and what is this claims thing. So product development per se is all to do with designing and developing a formulation. So when I'm working on a cream, when I have a project brief that I have to reach out to my consumer with a new product, new cream altogether. So it starts with understanding the science behind materials, understanding the technology, understanding what I'm going to deliver to these consumers. It all really is very, very important that I meet what my consumers are looking for, and that's where the CTI, which is a very Unilever term, but it's a consumer testing, consumer research,
Okay.
and I'm not sure if you all have heard about it. I did not hear it during my college days, so
Okay.
it was completely new when I got into it. But yes, there are educational courses available on consumer research and market research courses. So these go hand in hand. The market research is more focused in terms of understanding the market, what are the new trends, etc. Consumer research is more focused in terms of what consumer wants, what are their needs. So right, it involves right from understanding what the consumer wants by way of researching with consumers to developing products to cater to those needs. And once I have these products ready, then I go again and test these products with consumers, whether they really like it. That gives me an understanding whether my product is going to work in market. So ultimately, it's business, right? I need to earn out of it. And if my consumer doesn't like my product, they will eventually not buy it. So that's where it's very, very important for me to have this consumer research and understand how my product is going to be looked at by my target set of consumers. And that's what is all about consumer research. So I talked to you about product research. The next leg was consumer research, and the third leg is about then communicating what the product is going to do to the consumers. Just imagine I have a jar of cream, which just say that it is a glow cream, versus I have another jar of cream which talks about what the cream is actually going to do when you apply it. So it's a night product. You apply it during the night. It's gonna work out wonders overnight, hydrate your skin, moisturize your skin, and when in morning when you get up, you get glow, right? So there are two different ways of saying it. A is just calling the cream out something, and second is elaborating what it is about. It has some wonderful ingredients, what kind of benefit one is to get after using it. That is something we call as the product benefits or product claims. It's about telling a product story which the consumers would understand what the product is going to do. And that is my third part of job that I do, which is about claims. And now one way is just I can just make a product, write something about it, tell a story, and launch it in the market. That's not how it works. For me, it's very, very important as a technical person that each and everything, each and every word that I write on the back or that I talk in a Insta post or on any sort of advertisement, be it a TV ad, be it a print advertisement, it is very, very important for me that I should be in a position to technically justify that the product has been tested to deliver those benefits. Yeah, so that's the third leg of it, which is claims and claim support manager.
So, Ashwini, just wanted to ask you. So, when somebody thinks about, say, research, so we think of, people sitting hours in the laboratory and having a microscope and then trying to discover molecules and stuff like that. So, are there different phases of research? Like you said, consumer research. So that is done by another team, which is it into data and stuff like that? And what are the different kind of skill sets and people that go into the entire product research cycle? Like,
So yeah, so there are in a complete research cycle, it does start with these micro level or cell level understanding of either the skin or the hair. So it is linked with your biology. It is linked with the material science. So for example, I have any ingredient, say aloe vera. So if I have aloe vera, what is aloe vera going to do? So there is a part of research on it, and that it's not limited to only lab work. One has to do a desk work. One has to go through numerous pieces of literatures, study it. So research is never ending or never stopping sort of journey. It's not something that you learn once and then you just keep applying. It's a continuous evolution where you keep on learning, you keep on growing yourself, and so it's not limited to only labs and a lab sort of research. Yeah, so there is reading, there is then experimenting, designing your experiments, testing those out. So it's a very elaborate
okay, great. So, just wanted to understand basics because now these are a lot of students who are like 10th and thing. So,
Mhm.
so, what are the typical subjects and thing one must be a very strong at, and what are the kind of I mean likings that a person should have if the person wants to go deeper into this particular subject as such? That way.
Yeah. So all the three things that I spoke to you about involves different levels of understanding. Yeah. So when it's about product development or the formulation science of it, it's to do with chemistry. So understanding the chemistry, the process, the interactions between different chemical ingredients, and hence turning it out into a product. So from a subject point of view, chemistry is very, very important.
Ashwini,
And
can
that's
we
where
just if I can interrupt, can we be a little louder? We are missing out on certain words. A little bit louder. Yeah.
oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The mic volume and all is fine, right?
All this, you need, if you can just be a little louder yourself, that's it.
Okay, 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 okay. So, okay, let me repeat myself. So I talked to you about three career options that I am currently working on in my role. One is a formulation or product development, which mainly is the back end understanding or knowledge is based on chemistry. So understanding the chemistry behind or science behind materials, molecules, how they are going to interact together, and how they are going to convert and transform into a product. So that's where a chemical understanding is very important. The second leg that involves is a bit of machinery or mechanical background, because ultimately these gets made into big machines. So I have to have an understanding of how it is going to, what are different kinds of machines, how they are going to work, what is the speed I need to put, how they're going to make my product. Then because I am doing something for consumers, either a skincare product or a hair care product, I have to have a biology understanding of the structure. So I should have a biology knowledge, so I can relate to how it is going to work when something is applied on your skin or on your hair. So these to me are three very, very important subjects. From an overall subject point of view, we also studied law or regulation, because ultimately my product is going to go into market, and that's where regulatory makes a, I should know what are the regulations that I need to stick to when I'm formulating or designing a product as well. And then the second leg where I talk to you about consumer research. It's more about data handling, consumer understanding, market research. So that's a different set of understanding that comes. And the third bit is on claims, which is again linked with your understanding of the chemistry, biology of skin, how a particular ingredient is going to go into it and work on it. So the basic subjects are chemistry, biology, and a bit of mechanical engineering. It's a mix of all.
So mechanical, is it because there are a lot of students who don't like physics? You know, that's a typical. They are the ones who want to go in for the paramedical. They are the ones who
Mhm.
like think. So is it so a chem and bio? Is it enough for you to kind of take you through this field? And yeah.
It is enough. It is enough.
Oh,
So depending on what is your interest areas. So I personally wasn't a very big fan of physics as well, while it was part of one of the subjects when I was studying. And that's where having basic understanding or basic knowledge is very, very important. I'm not talking it about from a very specific cosmetic point of view, but in any field, having a basic understanding helps you to relate things in a better way. But a deeper information, or you can go into depth into any of the particular given subject, and in this case it would be chemistry
great.
and biology.
Okay, so you came in with a degree in say and cosmetology at the undergrad itself. So can
Yeah.
people come in from other streams, say a biology or a chemistry, microbiology, genetics, or any other field, and or pharmacy, and take up this kind of a course that way?
Yes, yes, definitely. So there are postgraduate degrees and diplomas, and usually who go into those postgraduate degrees, diplomas are students from pharmacy background, because pharmacy is very closely linked to cosmetics. It's all about creating pharmaceutical products again, right? So
Yeah.
pharmacy is very closely linked. Then even by perfumery, or a chemistry, a BSc chemistry person can also take up a advanced diploma or degree in cosmetology. Or another parallel field is fragrance and perfumery. Yeah, so it's again like working with fragrance flavors, developing them, researching on them, and designing those kind of products. So again, fragrance is a separate product
Fragrance, perfume, so
altogether.
kind of super specialization should happen at the postgrad level, right? If you,
Yes,
yeah,
yes, yes.
okay, okay. And
So at grad level, your basics get cleared. You are very clear with basic. You're very thorough with what is the basics part of it. But postgrad gets you deeper into the subject.
great. And also like you had mentioned, other things like law and that those things also come at the postgrad level and stuff like that, right? Mm.
So in the graduation level itself, if I am to give you an example or take example of this particular cosmetology course, it involved basics of law, it involved basics of chemical engineering, it involved basics of skin or biology, it involved basics of beauty industry. It involved, so all these is something that was covered as basics in the graduation course itself. When I went to postgrad, I had options to choose from where I want to go and do my specialization, whether I want to continue with the formulation part of it, cosmetic formulations, whether I want to pick up a different field of fragrance and perfumery, whether I wanted to go behind a beauty industry, which is all about application of these products and not actually developing and designing these products. I had opportunity to go into marketing as well. wherein I could have done a techno sales sort of role where you come with a technical background, but you are now doing sales and marketing of that particular products, right? I also had an opportunity to get into the regulation or law sort of opportunity, because then there are people who are specifically working on in FMCG sector who are working on the regulatory or legal fronts. So, so so in the grads, it's basics. It touches upon various different subjects. In postgrads, you have an opportunity to go deeper into whichever your interest area is.
Okay, so wonderfully that even answers asked by Naveen, who says that he wants to get into cosmetic marketing. So as Ashwini very clearly mentioned, at the undergrad level, you make your basics strong of the subject, and postgrad, you decide what you want to choose, whether you want to be in research or marketing or say the regulatory, and then choose your subjects accordingly. That's great. So Ashwini, yeah, this all sounds very interesting and very glamorous. But just wanted to understand what are the pros and cons, what are the parts of the job which are wow, and what are the parts of the job which are like, oh my God, how many things.
Yes. So yeah. So when you get into a job, it's very exciting. It's new because you're learning something. You're growing in it, right? Over a few years, it starts getting monotonous. So you're doing the same set of work. If you're developing formulations, you're say doing same set of work. You're doing same set of work over years, and that's where it's. So to me, my journey has been very exciting, and every time I felt that okay, now I'm getting bored, I switched my role. So that's where it gave me a lot of opportunities to play within the portfolio. I started with a support function. I moved it then into claims where uh, I designed the claims, the efficacy testings and all.
So
Post that I moved into.
claims and this efficacy that you're talking about, what exactly is claims?
So it's a okay, yeah. So let me touch upon that as well, because that's also a very interesting area. It's a clinical science, right? So I don't know if it's called clinical science, but it's the clinical understanding wherein any product, and I'm not taking example of cosmetic per se here. Any product, be it cosmetic, be it your pharmaceutical product, a drug, everything goes through clinical research. What is clinical research? Clinical research is where the efficacy of the product is actually getting tested on humans or on actual human cells, right? So whether the product is really going to work, whether the product is really going to deliver to those benefits and exercise. You would have heard about the COVID vaccines. They are going through clinical research. So that's what is clinical research is. So even if it is a small cream, or even if I'm making a shampoo, or even if I'm making any sort of product, if I am to talk what the product is going to do, if I am to say the product is going to give 24 hours of moisturization, I have to put that product into a clinical research where I have to test it with human subjects, see the product is really effective, and that entire thing is studied or analyzed by a statistician to give me and confirm me that yes, your product indeed is effective. So that's another very interesting parallel field that students can consider. It's very interesting.
Yeah, so we were talking about the pros and cons of the job.
Yes. So moving back to the pros and cons. So pros are, yes, there are multiple opportunities that you get and you can keep growing in your careers. Cons, I really couldn't think of that there is anything. So only thing where I felt is okay, now I am done, I'm doing the same sort of job, and I don't have anything further to explore or grow, is a phase that comes after every few years, and that is a negative that I think of. But then my job is such that I keep, I mean, there are every day is new. Every day there is something new happening, and that's where it keeps me excited and go back to work.
Great, great. So I guess this is being a recruiter and being in the thing. Any field. I think we come to this kind of the place where where at a certain point, then once things start becoming monotonous, you need to learn the next thing which is coming over the horizon. You need to keep on upgrading yourself and
Yes,
find out what's happening next over the horizon. So that keeps you also interested, and also you keeps you stops you from getting redundant also. Like if
yeah,
keep learning
yeah,
new things and new things. So there's no end to you can't say, okay, I've done my grad and post grad and I'm done for life. I think you have to keep on learning all the time, and that's the way you keep your interest in the job on, right? So
yeah,
that's
yeah. And what I would say, Nisha, is for all the students, yeah. I mean, I'm relating it from when I was in college. I used to have that thought. Okay, I'm doing my grads. I'll do my post grads. I'll get a good job, and I'm done. But when I got into working, I am not done actually. There is so much out there to learn that it's never stopping, and you have to have that passion to keep on learning, keep on growing yourself.
that's great. So I want all the participants, if you have any questions, to keep typing it in the chat box so we can take it, after a couple of minutes. And yeah, Ashwini, I just wanted to understand. So in your team, you being in HUL, you must be getting the top talent and you must be getting the top people applying to your company and your organization. And now, a couple of years back, there was not so much of a thing, but right now, almost a lot of people are going abroad, doing their masters or doing their undergrad abroad and thing. So what do you think, like as to studying in India and abroad, is there a advantage, disadvantage? Do you think Indian college is good enough? Or what would be the right thing to do, like, or do a master's abroad? What would be a right educational path one must take to kind of be great at this field? Like,
Yeah, so it really depends on where you see yourself. So far in my team, and when I say my team, within the entire skincare R&D, or even when I see the most of the R&D people, they are Indians, and they have their educations done here in India. They have done their grads, post grads. So it's all. I mean, there are very few cases that I can even think of who has gone abroad, done their masters, and come back. Uh, where it has helped is what also I will tell you. The kind of experience you get internationally is more practical. Yeah. Uh, in our education system there are those kind of challenges. It's not completely that you don't get those experience. You go through your industrial training in your third year or in your masters. When you do your studies, you do go for the industrial trainings, you do go for internships, but still the practical experience, maybe it could be because of the infrastructure in those particular institutions. But yes, the practical knowledge is something that is limited when you go. But it's not a bottleneck that one has to go abroad and study there. I don't believe that's the
okay, so it's not like in India. What are the colleges? Somebody is even asking, what are the colleges you think are the best, and like where does HUL absorb people from? Where would you take in the students from? Like, which do you think are the top
so
hierarchy?
in yeah, so I'll tell you. So in HUL R&D, mostly students are from chemical background. They are either chemical engineers, they are from pharmacy background, then from cosmetic backgrounds. And the colleges, if I am to talk about cosmetics, there are in fact two women colleges in Nagpur, and I am a pass out from LED College, which is one of the best,
Sorry, I didn't get that
or
name.
which
I didn't get that
is
name.
a LED. It's a
LED.
LED LAD. It's Lady Amritbai Daga College.
Okay.
It's a women's college, and it's the best cosmetic technology college so far in India. Apart
Okay.
from that, in Mumbai, there is Vazay Kelkar. They have postgraduate, and I guess they also have graduate diploma in cosmetology. Then Amravati has a co-ed college. There are very limited institutions on cosmetic technology per se. but there are diplomas and even IITs or other colleges with chemistry or pharmacy backgrounds. Even they have these kind of diplomas.
And typically for an R&D, would you only recruit PhDs? You would be giving them preference or even a master's or something?
Not necessary. A master's is yes. Masters would be preferred over bachelor's. PhD is depends on whether my role is uh, so much research based. So when I talk about research, there are different levels of research. There is one kind of research which is very in-depth sort of research, wherein a PhD will do more justice. But even masters are mostly preferred. So mostly recruitments happen at masters.
Okay, and I just want to know, just because now, I mean, it's so much about it directly, and all the students who come to me also completely, it's all international. So if you have CVs who's come from like US and Canada and who are applying for jobs here, and they come with some kind of I mean, if they come as say freshers, MS, or would you kind of take in such people, and what would you look for if it is an abroad CV like that?
So I would look for the candidate's experience really. So if I have a position with me, or entry level position with me, I would look for what kind of experience that particular candidate has. What it could be either where they have done their internships, or what kind of projects they would have handled during their graduation or post graduation. And the third most important thing to me is how open are they to pick up things, learn, and get themselves settled in the role.
Great. Okay, great. So since you're talking about internships, does HUL provide internships for, say, at least graduates or something like that? Do you have? Because
Yes.
everybody wants people who come with experience and internships, but then a lot of I mean, companies are not willing to provide that kind of a platform. So
So no, I don't agree. Companies do have, and I'm not just talking about HUL. There are many companies who provide these internships. Usually, the institutions and colleges themselves, and it's mandatory as part of the graduate program itself, for a student to complete a 8 weeks minimum 8 weeks internship in a external organization. So I don't, and there are many, and colleges do have good connects with most of the institutions, and they do provide internships.
okay. So that's great. So are we, do we have questions from the audience? And if people can type it in the chat box, we can, we should take advantage of Ashwini being with us. And yeah. So Ashwini, one question was if
Mhm.
uh, best courses for cosmetic tech, okay, that we answered. And is chemistry in class 12 a prerequisite? Right? Like,
Yes,
I think you
yes,
answered that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yes.
So
A
chemistry.
PCB, a physics, chemistry, biology is a prerequisite.
Yeah, PCB is a good is a
Yeah.
combination to have to get into this field.
Yes, there would be an advantage if you have PCMB, but PCB is.
Okay, okay. PCMB is also advantage. Uh, okay. Hey guys, any other questions which people have, please do type in because we will be winding up in the next 10-15 minutes. So we'll not have much time. So let's keep it thing. And yeah, so Ashwini, one question is like, so, Lord, hearing of things like these bioinformatics and those kind of fields nowadays. Do they augment your research part? And then for that, would a person need maths? And what kind of do you have such people in your team who use data analysis?
Not not in my team per se, but yes, there are teams, because everything is going digital, and data is very important in these days. And there are teams. It's more linked with the digital science teams basically. There are teams who are into handling these data points. Not in my team per se.
Not in your team as such, but there are careers in this bioinformatics and all that
Yes, of course.
in
Yes,
pharma
of course.
companies and stuff like that, right?
Yes, Yes.
Okay, okay. And just wanted to, okay, okay. So guys, are we having questions? Yeah. Okay. I just want to know, can a person switch between, say, a cosmetic and a pharma company? Does that work? Or then you kind of, if you begin your career with a cosmetic company, then you kind of get into that only, or does that switch happen? Hmm.
I don't think that switch is possible unless you give a pharma entrance exam. I think pharma has an entrance exam. I'm not fully aware of that, but I guess pharma has an entrance exam.
Uh,
So if you started with cosmetics, you may still have to give that entrance and then get yourself into
no,
pharma
if it's the
industry.
other way, if the person has done a graduation in pharma, then he can take up a job either in this or that, right? It's a
Yeah,
more
yeah, of course, of course, of course. If a person has taken education in pharma, the person is open to go ahead and do postgrads or advanced education in either cosmetics or perfumery, or even if the person continues in pharma, we do have people from pharma background working in our teams.
and one more
So
thing
we
is
have people from chemical background, that's chemical engineering. We have people from pharma, bachelor's and master's both. We have people from cosmetics background. We also have people from microbiology background.
microbiology. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and one more thing is HOL is a multinational company. And so you have a separate R&D division in India, right? And then, so each country will have its own R&D, or does the central team or whatever, the headquarters tell you, like, this product needs to be launched, or how does the whole product, how is it,
It's
how is
very
it?
different. Yeah, it's very different from industry to industry, right? So HUL has a way of working, and again that varies from again country to country, brand to brand, and it's continuous evolving. So it hasn't been a standard way that there is a global central team who will always say that this is what has to be done. So and it has in my last 11 years I have seen HUL transform from different structures and different ways of working over years. So it's very industry, or it's very dependent on what that company is. For example, what I know of L'Oreal, everything is based in Paris, and so all the research happens there, and it's more of a deploy what happens in countries like India and all. But they do have a smaller research cell where they do new research, and those products do land in market. So it's dependent on a
Something
particular
like the
brand or
Ayurvedic,
or
Ayurvedic touch to the product, and that, so that, so then they might be having these local, I mean, the local R&D team comes up with those kind of products. And,
not specifically. It's again brand specific. So if I'm to give you an example, and I will not take a actual example here, I'll take an example of say Garnier. So Garnier will not make an Ayurvedic product because that is not Garnier's brand equity, right? So it's not a Ayurvedic natural brand. But if say tomorrow L'Oreal has to make a Ayurvedic product name, they possibly will launch a new brand which will have all the Ayurvedic products. And it can be design developed either in France, or it can be design developed in India or any other place. But when I speak of a product design, it's not limited to one particular thing or one particular team doing it. If I am developing a new product, I work with my counterparts who are based out of Shanghai. I work with my counterparts who are based out of US. I work with teams who are based in Bangalore. I work with teams who are based in Mumbai. So I work with people all over the world to make that one product happen.
wow. And so what is a typical life cycle? In sense, how much time does a research actually take before you launch a product in the market? Like,
Uh, it can take anywhere between 6 months to 2 years, depending on what I am doing. So whether I'm starting from like complete scratch, where I don't know anything what this is going to turn out, then it will go through the entire process of development, its shelf stability, its assessment. So it could take around 1 year to 2 years, depending on what is the the product like, or if I'm starting from a pre-existing base or pre-existing product and looking at new technologies, I possibly can work it around in 6 months or 9 months or a year's time.
We have a question from Sanjana. So, if a person wants to pursue cosmetic marketing, is it good to take physics, psychology, physics, chemistry in the 12th grade? Because see, nowadays, with liberal arts, you have this combination of physics and psychology and stuff like that. So, do you think that helps right in the 12th itself, or should one?
Chemistry would help. I wouldn't say, if you're talking about marketing, then physics not that much. Chemistry would help, because that would give you the basic understanding of how your product is made, what goes behind it, what is the ingredient, and then it will help a marketeer in terms of storytelling.
Great. Okay. And psychology, you think will add value to
psychology? Okay, psychology possibly could add value when you are actually going to understand your market and your consumers, and what is consumer psychology when you are marketing a product to them. So if I'm to talk about psychology and marketing, then it's all about understanding consumer psychology and then marketing a product to them.
Okay, so Sanjana, if that answers your question, it does help. But earlier, what Ashwini said is, if you get in the grad level, it's good to do a subject matter expertise on that particular subject, and then then kind of augment it with, say, marketing knowledge or law, whatever things, so that you become a subject matter expert, and then you think so that helps. Okay, Sanjana says
Yeah.
that.
What I would also suggest, Sanjana, is if your ambition is to look into marketing, then you should purely focus on marketing, and it should not be restricted to a type of marketing, right? So it should not be restricted to a cosmetic marketing. That will limit your opportunities. When your base is in marketing, then you can do smaller short-term courses to get in-depth knowledge about a type of course, which gives you advantage when you are working in a particular organization. Say, for example, if you are working in HUL itself, there are cosmetics, there is home care, there is foods. So there are multiple things, and people they switch from one category, from one brand to another. I have seen people from tea moving into skincare, from skincare moving into home care. So it's not really specific to a cosmetic marketing. Your base should be then marketing. You should be very strong on marketing.
Okay, so if you've decided to get in your market, then get
Yes.
marketing basics right is
Yes. Yes.
And yeah, just one last question in case you have guys 2 minutes more. So looking at the overall, can you name the top 3 soft skills? Say a person would need to be in research. So for example, does it need a lot of patience and hours of thing? Or and if people who are they say, okay, I'm a very people's person. So do you get to interact with people and stuff like that, or are you closeted in the laboratory? And what are the soft skills that we should be looking at? I mean,
Creativity is the most important soft skill, I would say. You have to be very creative, because you have to be open to, because there is no particular way how things would turn out in research. You start with one thing with an expectation that, okay, you will end up here, you may end up in something else, right? So that's where being creative around research and open to utilizing that research in new opportunities and thinking out new opportunities. So that's where research is a very important, creativity is a very important soft skill, I would say. Next one is your communication skills, be it storytelling, be it writing very technical science-based reports. So you have to be very strong on your communication skills. The third one is your networking. So the good, if you are a good person with a lot of friends, you like to talk a lot, that is anytime better. So I always tell people, if whenever I have a new team member joining in, my first advice is that, guys, things don't happen on email, things happens with relationships. So you have very good relationship with your stakeholders, and your work is half done.
Great. So Ashwini, that's a big eye opener because we imagine people doing R&D just being in the labs and not interacting with people, and all the three skills that you mentioned are very are in fact the opposite, where you actually interact and we actually are communicating your ideas and stuff like that.
Yes.
I think it's an eye opener for me and maybe all my participants that. So you do. I mean, you don't have to look at it as something which you are going to be restricted inside, and think of this as a wonderful career.
Yeah.
So, okay, yeah. So Sanjana, so when one wants to pursue marketing, so this Sanjana is actually not related to this topic, but any case, if one wants to pursue marketing, undergrad programs could be like a BBA, or you can get you can get a degree in any strong, even a psychology or a BBA, which gives you a general thing, and then pursue your MBA, which is maybe not very related to the topic we're talking about. So maybe we can connect offline for the same. Yeah, so guys, we're winding up the session. So any comments, feedbacks, questions that you have, we can take it offline as well. And like I said, on the job, we try and connect you with a lot of people who are experts in the industry, who are actually doing the job, because the kind of insights which Ashwini gave us, like if I just Google it, or if I think it's very important, it's very difficult for me to actually understand what is R&D if I don't speak to the person doing it. So that is what on the job tries to give you. And next week we have an aerospace engineer who's doing design a lot of aeronautical and aerospace engineer who's doing a lot of designing for the GE Boeing. So please do join in. And after that, Cognitive Sciences. So keep track on Saturdays, and we think. And if you have any suggestion careers that you would like to know about, you can connect on our Instagram page and DM us. So we'd be happy to do that. Okay, guys. So can I have the feedbacks and the any feedbacks or thing? Please do type it uh, in the message box right now. And Ashwini, thank you so much. And I mean, this has been a wonderful the session, and the way you explain the whole thing, it's so simple and uh, doable kind of a thing. Like and it's a different career option. I mean, it's an option which is open up, and especially people who don't want to go through this grind of engineering, medicine, and who are very confused कि हम लोग क्या कर सकते हैं इसके बारे में. So this has been a great insight. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Nisha. It was very, very nice to be here, talk to students. And I have been doing these talks for last, I mean, I have utilized my lockdown period in doing these kind of talk. I went back to my colleges and I have had similar kind of sessions. And I really feel passionate about connecting back with students because I had a limitation when I was in college. There was no one who I would reach out to and ask these sort of questions. And hence I believe that's very important
Yeah,
to
great.
get these insights that really hands hold someone to make choices as they grow. So to students here, participants here, all the very best in your career journeys. You can reach out to Nisha or you can post me a message on my LinkedIn handle and I will revert back if you have any questions as well.
Oh wow! Thank you so much. And guys, any if you can just even type in a feedback, it'll be great. And yeah,